Hope you had a great weekend, folks. Great to have you with us tonight here on The Ed Show. The Occupy Wall Street movement captured the attention of America 1 month ago tonight. Now the global movement for economic justice has Washington's full attention, I'd say. This weekend, the 99% protesters filled the streets in over 800 American cities in over 82 different countries. The Obama campaign says it will make the 99% platform a central tenet of his reelection strategy, and Republicans are running scared. For the last month, Republicans have vilified the 99% movement. Exactly 10 days ago, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor sounded the alarm at the Value Voters Conference.
I, for one, am increasingly concerned about the growing mobs occupying Wall Street and the other cities across the country.
Now, is that what he's saying today? Cantor has done a complete 180 on the middle-class mob and now claims to have a plan to solve the record income gap in America.
We agree that the economy is woefully weak. We agree that there is too much income disparity in this country. We believe that everyone ought to be lifted up.
Have you heard any Republicans talk about income disparity? I think that this Wall Street movement has got these folks on the run. For Cantor to claim Republicans want to lift everyone up is a joke. They've never offered any policy that would support that. In fact, the last 10 years of Republican economic policy is exactly why the rich have been richer and the other 99% is out in the street demanding justice. The Republican Party's tax cut at all costs religion has destroyed the American dream for millions of Americans. Eric Cantor's prescription to solve the income gap is just more of the same.
We know in this country right now that there is a complaint about folks at the top end of the income scales, that they make too much and too many don't make enough. Well, we need to go encourage those at the top of the income scale to actually put their money to work to create more jobs so that we can see a closing of the gap. You know, we're about income mobility, and that's what we should be focused on to take care of the income disparity.
You know, I thought the Bush tax cuts took care of all of that, Mr. Cantor. I thought that if you don't raise taxes on the job creators, you don't have to worry about anything. Cantor wants to encourage the job creators by lowering their taxes again, this time by 10%. Tax hikes for the rich have been on the slide for the last 50 years. The middle class has been picking up the tab. Eric Cantor's income gap solution would make those numbers even worse. Tonight, Cantor's offers announced that he will take an income gap dog and pony show on the road. The majority leader is planning a major speech at the Wharton School in Philadelphia this Friday. President Obama is already on the road pushing his jobs plan. The president is on a 3-day bus tour, which will put him in Cantor's home state of Virginia later this week. Today, President Obama hammered the Republicans, their plan down in North Carolina.
Turns out the Republican plan boils down to a few basic ideas. They want to gut regulations. They want to let Wall Street do whatever it wants. They want to drill more, and they want to repeal health care reform. That's their jobs plan.
President Obama is still pressuring the Republicans to pass portions of his jobs bill that was blocked by Republicans in the Senate last week.
Independent economists, not my economists, but independent economists, have said this jobs bill would create nearly 2 million jobs. But apparently none of this matters to the Republicans in the Senate, because last week they got together to block this bill.
And on Sunday, Cantor made it clear Republicans in the House won't compromise with the president's economic approach.
Since the president has taken office, there's been 1.6 million jobs lost in the private sector, net. We've also seen the fact there's 7.5 million foreclosures during this president's term. Obviously, his economic plans are not working.
And that representative you just saw on the screen is completely intellectually dishonest about President Obama's record on private sector job growth. The 1.6 million private sector job loss happened in the first 12 months of President Obama was digging us out of the ditch that Bush created. President Obama's stimulus has led America to 19 straight months of private sector job growth. So once again, I asked the question tonight here on the Ed Show, how much more evidence do you need? The obstruction continues. But we're seeing a shift that I talked about at the top. President Obama is ready to really embrace the Occupy Wall Street crowd and make that the central part of his reelection campaign. That's all good news, because a lot of them are disenchanted Obama supporters who were in the street thinking he didn't fight hard enough. So he's on the right track. Off track is Eric Cantor. Cantor is saying, you know, I guess we've got to go get the wealthy people and try to encourage them to create jobs. After we've given them all the breaks, they just haven't done it, which just goes to show that their trickle-down economic theory, it's never worked and it never will. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question, which movement is stronger, the 99% movement or the Tea Party? Text A for 99%, text B for the Tea Party to 622-639. Our blog is there for you at ed.msnbc.com for a comment. We'll bring you the results later on. Joining me now is Van Jones, president and co-founder of rebuildthedream.com. Van, good to have you with us tonight. Does Eric Cantor, you bet, does Eric Cantor have a clue how close the income gap is?
Yeah, well, he doesn't. Well, first of all, you said what's bigger, the Tea Party or Occupy Wall Street. 99% of the Tea Party base should be in Occupy Wall Street as well, because they're getting just as screwed over by Wall Street as anything else. That sound you hear is the ice cracking all around the Republican Party. This movement has shaken up politics. It is completely redrawing the boundaries. When you have somebody like Eric Cantor pretending that he cares about income inequality, you know this movement has broken through in a big way in 1 month's time. And
what should the reaction of the Obama re-election campaign be? When they say they're going to embrace this, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, I think what you're seeing right now, you now have two big fights in the country. You have this big, peaceful, nonviolent movement that's challenging Wall Street, saying, hey, would you please get your boot off the neck of the American people? Wall Street was responsible for the recession, their recklessness. Now they're holding up the recovery. They won't give students a break with their loans. They won't give homeowners a break. They won't give small businesses and farmers loans. Wall Street is the main culprit. You got a mass movement in the streets trying to deal with that. And now the president has opened up a fight in Congress over jobs. The two big issues in America. You've got a mass movement in the streets trying to deal with the banks. You've got the president leading the charge in Congress over jobs. And the Republicans are on the wrong side of both. This is a big deal. A big deal. And I hope that the campaign pays attention to the fact that the most popular thing in America is a bunch of young folks and struggling folks in sleeping bags out there, and that they speak for millions. They do represent the 99%.
Well, they're the ones that are staying overnight, but the ones I saw out there, it crosses all demographics, and it's pretty amazing, all professions as well. But how does the Obama campaign, in your opinion, recapture this emotion and turn this into a political victory? And do you think these 99%ers are going to vote?
Hey, listen, I think what's happening right now is that for so long, progressives, liberals, we built movements trying to chase the White House, trying to chase Washington, D.C. Please listen to us. We got called retards. We got called all kind of stuff. But guess what? This movement is a movement that D.C. has to chase. The White House has to chase. All the political folks like us have to chase this movement, and it's great. I think that if the White House comes out and says, we hear these students, they are not getting, they're graduating $100,000 worth of debt, no jobs, praying to get an unpaid internship. We hear you. We're going to do something to help you. Yeah. We hear you, homeowners. If the administration starts taking on this cause, not just rhetorically, but putting forward real ideas that could make a difference, I think you could completely redraw the map. But I don't think it's about Democrats trying to co-opt this movement. We should let the spirit of this movement co-opt the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and the whole country. This is the best thing in America right now.
All right. Van Jones of rebuildthedream.com. Appreciate your time. Let's turn now to Joan Walsh, editor-at-large for Salon.com, and Mike Papantonio, host of the Ring or Fire radio show. Joan, it would seem to me that this really sets the table for President Obama to run against Congress. I mean, there's so many avenues that he can follow right here. The angst in the country, and he's the one that is out there advocating a very simple thing of jobs that he's not getting support on. What do you make of it?
Right. Yeah, and I want to point to the president taking a much more populist line even before Occupy Wall Street, so he deserves some credit on that front for sure. At the same time, Ed, Occupy Wall Street has done what we have not, as progressives, been able to do for generations. And so I loved hearing Van say that Occupy Wall Street should co-opt the Democrats rather than the Democrats co-opting Occupy Wall Street, because I know there's a lot of fear about just becoming another appendage of a Democratic Party that really doesn't listen to its base. So I think that the role for a lot of us right now should be listening and paying attention and dialogue rather than saying, you guys have to vote and you have to vote for Obama. I'm taking a kind of curious wait-and-see posture. But I also think the thing that's happened, in 10 days, really, is that Eric Cantor now sees that Occupy Wall Street is more popular with the American people than the Tea Party. We have poll data now that says that. So this man who's been Mr. Tea Party is running away from the Tea Party and running to Occupy Wall Street. He cannot call them an angry mob anymore.
Mike, what does this mean? Everybody's going to get thrown out in November? The way it stands right now, everybody's got problems with Democrats, Republicans.
Well, the good thing for the Democrats, though, is when you take Republican, it equates with Wall Street more than it does the Democrats equating with Wall Street. That's a huge advantage for the Democrats. They need to play that out. Obama has been given a free shot here, Ed. He's been given a free shot to rail against the Republicans. And every time an irrelevant, lightweight Republican type like Eric Cantor starts talking stupid talk about this trickle-down economics that has failed us for 2 decades now, Americans are gagging on this ridiculous, laughable Republican talking point that billionaires are patriots who care about job creation, that if we let them get away with their tax scams, if we let them get away with their tax shelters, that they're going to take that money and give it to the American working public. We've seen that's a lie. We've seen it to the point that there are 14 million Americans out of work under the old Republican program, the old Bush cut the tax, cut the regulation program. We've seen it, but Eric Cantor is such a cartoon character that he can't help but parrot those same stupid talking points even as we speak. While that's going on, his job creators, Ed, are sitting there with $3 trillion in cash that they refuse to give to the American economy to put people back to work. They have billions offshore that they now want to negotiate with the American taxpayer to get back into this country, telling us.
Yeah, there's no doubt all leads into it. But this seems to be territory, Joan, where politicians aren't welcome, no matter who they are. Yet you can find Democrats in Congress who are for universal health care, who didn't want the Wall Street bailout, who want jobs, who hit the majority of the bullseye that these people are protested for. Yet I don't see any of the Democrats down there really embracing this crowd other than doing media interviews every now and then. What about that?
Yeah, I would like to see more Democrats approaching, and they would have to approach in a spirit of humility, really, and a spirit of learning and curiosity. There, as Mike says, there's a lot more commonality between what at least progressive Democrats want and what Occupy Wall Street wants. There are areas of overlap, but I think that there are a lot of people down there who feel burned. We had a lot of young people come out and vote in 2008 who really voted for change, and they didn't see change, and instead they've got unbelievable debt. So I think I'd like to see more politicians down there. I love what the unions have been doing. They're going down, they're asking questions, they're helping, they're not giving orders. That's what's got to happen in the next few months. And the Democrats have 13 months to learn from this movement, figure out how to work with this movement, and begin to champion some of the causes like student debt relief and homeowner relief. There are really practical things we could be doing, Ed, that would both stimulate the economy but also liberate the 99% from the shackles of debt. And that's what this is about.
And quickly, Mike, if we're at 4.5%, 5% unemployment, does that mean that this protest isn't taking place? I mean, everything changes when you got a job.
I think this protest takes place for a lot of different reasons. They want money out of politics. That's what it really comes down to.
That's one of them.
Money out of politics is number one on their list.
Yeah, Joan Walsh, Mike Papantonio, always a pleasure. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Ed.
Remember to answer tonight's question there at the bottom of the screen. We want to know what you think. Coming up, Katrina Vanden Heuvel of The Nation on the explosion of the Occupy Wall Street movement around the country and around the world. We'll also go back to Madison, Wisconsin, where many believe the 99% movement started. And later, Herman Cain destroys a John Lennon song, but he says liberals are out to destroy America. You're watching The Ed Show on MSNBC. Stay with us.